Right now, at this very moment, thousands of women over 60 are looking in the mirror and noticing something that breaks their heart. More hair on the pillow than yesterday, a wider part down the middle, that thin spot at the crown that wasn't there last year. You run your fingers through your hair and it feels different, thinner, almost fragile, and you're thinking this is just what happens when you get older, right? Wrong. What if I told you that the biggest reason you're losing your hair after 60 isn't actually age at all, but one mistake you're making every single week, maybe even every single day, that's quietly destroying your hair from the roots up. And here's the thing that makes this so heartbreaking. You're probably doing it because you think it's good for you. You think you're taking care of yourself. But stick with me because we're going to uncover exactly what's happening and, more importantly, how to turn it around starting today. Before we dive in, do me a favor. Hit that like button right now and drop a comment with your age and where you're watching from. I want to know I'm reaching the women who need this information most. And trust me, sharing your age creates a community where we all realize we're not alone in this struggle. Now I need you to understand something that most doctors won't spend enough time explaining. Your hair after 60 is going through a perfect storm. Think of it like a garden that's suddenly facing drought, poor soil, and harsh weather all at once. When you hit menopause and move through your 60s, your estrogen levels drop dramatically. Estrogen is like fertilizer for your hair follicles. It keeps them in the growing phase longer, makes them produce thicker strands, keeps your scalp healthy and hydrated. When estrogen drops, your hair follicles shrink. They produce thinner hair and they spend less time growing and more time resting. At the same time, you've got more testosterone floating around, relatively speaking, because estrogen isn't balancing it out anymore. That testosterone converts to something called DHT, which sounds complicated, but think of it as a hormone that basically tells your hair follicles to shut down shop. But here's what makes this even more complicated, and this is where we get to the heart of what you're doing wrong. As you age, your scalp itself changes in ways you can't see. The blood flow to your scalp decreases, which means less oxygen and fewer nutrients reaching those follicles. Your scalp produces less natural oil, so it becomes drier. The skin on your scalp gets thinner and more sensitive, and your hair growth cycle, which used to reset every few years with fresh new growth, starts slowing down dramatically. Some follicles just stop producing new hair altogether. Now stay with me here, because this connects to your daily habits in a way most people don't realize. I've talked to women who spent years watching their hair thin, trying different vitamins, buying expensive shampoos, even considering those medication treatments, and nothing seemed to help. Then they changed one simple thing about their routine, and within 3 to 6 months, they noticed real differences. Less hair in the drain, new little hairs sprouting along the hairline, their ponytail feeling thicker again. What did they change? Well, we're about to count down the 5 biggest mistakes women over 60 make that accelerate hair loss, building up to the number 1 mistake that's probably the most surprising and the most devastating of all. Coming in at number 5, we have ignoring your protein intake, and this is huge. Your hair is literally made of protein. Every single strand is constructed from a protein called keratin. Think of protein as the building blocks your body uses to construct new hair. When you don't eat enough protein, your body goes into crisis mode. It starts rationing. And guess what gets rationed first? Your hair. Your body's smart. It says, well, we need protein for your heart, your muscles, your organs, your immune system. Hair, that's a luxury. We'll shut that down to save resources. Now here's what I see happening with so many women over 60. They start eating less as they age. Maybe they're not as hungry. Maybe they're trying to watch their weight. Maybe they're living alone and don't feel like cooking big meals. They have toast for breakfast, a salad for lunch, maybe some pasta for dinner. They think they're eating healthy, but they're barely getting 40 or 50 grams of protein a day when they actually need closer to 75 to 90 grams, especially after 60 when your body doesn't use protein as efficiently as it used to. One woman shared how she realized she was eating maybe one small serving of meat or fish a day and wondering why her hair was falling out in clumps every time she showered. When she started tracking her protein and made sure she got 20 to 30 grams at each meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, within about 2 months, she noticed the shedding had dramatically decreased. By 4 months, she could actually see new growth around her temples. So what's the fix? Here's what you need to do right now. Start your day with real protein, not just a banana and coffee. We're talking eggs, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese. A protein smoothie with actual protein powder, that's 20 to 25 grams right there. Lunch needs a palm-sized portion of chicken, fish, turkey, or if you're vegetarian, beans and quinoa together. Dinner, same thing. Another palm-sized serving. And here's a trick that really helps keep easy protein snacks around. String cheese, hard-boiled eggs, nuts, protein bars with at least 15 grams of protein. If you hit 75 to 90 grams of protein spread throughout the day, you're giving your follicles the raw materials they desperately need. And yes, you will see results, but not overnight. Hair grows slowly. You're looking at 3 to 6 months before you see real visible improvement. That's normal. That's how hair works. Be patient. Number 4, and this is where things start getting more serious, you're dealing with iron deficiency without even knowing it. Now I know what you're thinking, I'm not anemic, my doctor checked my blood, but here's what most doctors won't tell you. You can have normal hemoglobin, meaning you're not technically anemic, but your ferritin levels can be in the tank. Ferritin is your stored iron. Think of hemoglobin as the iron actively working in your bloodstream right now, and ferritin as your iron savings account. When your ferritin drops too low, your hair follicles can't access the iron they need, even though your blood work looks normal. Medical research has shown that women with hair loss often have ferritin levels below 40. Some experts say you need ferritin at least 50 to 70 to support healthy hair growth. But most doctors only worry about ferritin when it drops below 12 or 15, the level where you're severely deficient. So you're walking around with ferritin of 25. Your doctor says you're fine, but your hair is falling out because your follicles are starving for iron. Why is iron so critical for hair? Because iron carries oxygen. Your hair follicles are some of the fastest growing cells in your entire body, and they need tons of oxygen to fuel that growth. When iron is low, it's like trying to run a factory without electricity. Everything shuts down. And here's the thing that makes this especially common in women over 60. You're likely not absorbing iron as well as you used to. Your stomach acid decreases with age. If you take antacids or proton pump inhibitors for heartburn, those block iron absorption even more. If you're vegetarian or don't eat much red meat, you're getting less heme iron, which is the kind your body absorbs best. Many women report that when they finally got their ferritin tested specifically, not just standard iron, they found levels around 20 or 30 and their doctor brushed it off. But when they started taking iron supplements, working with a knowledgeable doctor to get their ferritin up to at least 60 or 70, they noticed less shedding within 6 to 8 weeks. One woman said she'd been losing hair for 3 years, tried everything, and nobody thought to check her ferritin. When they finally did, it was 18. After 4 months of iron supplementation, her hair loss had stopped almost completely. Here's what you need to know. Ask your doctor to check your ferritin levels specifically. If it's below 40, talk about supplementation. The typical recommendation is an iron supplement taken with vitamin C on an empty stomach to maximize absorption. But be careful, iron supplements can cause constipation and stomach upset, so you might need to start slow or try a gentler form like iron bisglycinate and keep testing every few months to make sure your levels are rising. It takes time, often 6 months or longer, to build up those stores and see the hair benefits. But it absolutely works if this is your issue. Now we're at number 3. And this is where we start getting into the behaviors you're doing yourself that are accelerating your hair loss without you realizing it. You're using heat styling tools and chemical treatments like you're still 40. I've talked to so many women who blow dry their hair every single day, use hot tools to curl or straighten, get their hair colored every 6 weeks, and they wonder why it's breaking and thinning. Here's what you need to understand. Your hair after 60 is fundamentally more fragile than it was 20 years ago. It's thinner, it has less natural moisture. The protein structure is weaker. It's like the difference between a fresh rubber band and one that's been sitting in a drawer for 5 years. That old rubber band snaps with way less tension. When you apply heat above 300 degrees Fahrenheit, you're literally damaging the protein structure of your hair. You're evaporating the moisture inside each strand. You're weakening it to the point where it breaks off. And chemical treatments, hair dye, perms, relaxers, they penetrate the hair shaft and change its structure. That's how they work. But older hair can't handle that stress the way younger hair can. The damage accumulates faster and the breakage becomes visible. One woman shared that she'd been blow drying her hair on high heat every morning for decades. When she was younger, her hair could handle it. But after 60, she noticed it was getting more and more brittle, snapping off at the ends, looking frizzy and damaged. She thought she needed better products, but what she needed was to stop damaging it every single day. When she switched to air drying most days and only using heat once or twice a week on a lower setting, and she stopped coloring her hair every 6 weeks and stretched it to every 10 weeks. Within 3 months, her hair felt healthier. Within 6 months, she could see it looked fuller because it wasn't breaking off anymore. So here's the fix. Embrace air drying. Let your hair dry naturally most days. If you absolutely must blow dry, use the lowest heat setting that still works, and always use a heat protectant spray first. Those products create a barrier that reduces direct heat damage. When you use flat irons or curling irons, keep the temperature under 350 degrees. That's hot enough to style but less likely to cause major damage. And here's the big one, rethink your relationship with hair color. If you're coloring every month, stretch it to every 2 or 3 months. Consider going lighter gradually so the roots aren't as noticeable. Or honestly, think about embracing your gray. I know that feels radical, but gray hair can be absolutely beautiful, and you'll be amazed how much healthier your hair becomes when you stop putting harsh chemicals on it every few weeks. Does this mean you can never style your hair or color it again? No, but it means being strategic. Save the heat styling for special occasions. Use gentle hair color formulas. Give your hair breaks. Treat it like the delicate, precious thing it is, because that's what it's become. We're at number 2 now, and this is where things get really interesting, because this mistake is actually the opposite of what a lot of people assume. You're not washing your hair enough, and the buildup on your scalp is quietly suffocating your follicles. Now, before you panic, I'm not saying you need to wash your hair every day. But here's what's happening. A lot of women over 60 were told at some point that washing your hair too much strips the oils and causes damage, which is partially true. So they cut back. They wash once or twice a week. They think they're being gentle and protective. But meanwhile, oil, dead skin cells, product residue, environmental pollutants, all of that is building up on their scalp, creating a film that clogs the follicles and triggers inflammation. Think of your scalp like soil in a garden. If the soil gets compacted and covered in debris, new plants can't push through. Your hair follicles are the same way. They need a clean, healthy environment to produce strong hair. When your scalp is coated in buildup, it creates low-level chronic inflammation. That inflammation damages the follicles over time and accelerates hair loss. And here's the thing that makes this even worse. As you age, your scalp produces less oil naturally, but you're still producing dead skin cells, and those cells need to be washed away. If they just sit there, they create a breeding ground for bacteria and yeast that make inflammation even worse. Now this goes against what a lot of hair loss advice says. You've probably heard, don't wash too much, you'll make it fall out faster. But medical research is pretty clear that a clean scalp supports better hair growth than a dirty one. Studies have shown that washing 5 to 6 times per week actually improved overall scalp and hair health for most people. That doesn't mean harsh scrubbing or stripping shampoos. It means gentle cleansing that removes buildup without damaging the hair itself. Many women have shared that when they started washing their hair more frequently, 3 to 4 times a week instead of once a week, using a gentle sulfate-free shampoo and really massaging the scalp to break up buildup, they noticed the scalp felt healthier, that tight, itchy feeling went away, and over time, the hair loss slowed down because the follicles could actually breathe and function properly again. Here's what you should do. Wash your hair 3 to 4 times a week minimum. Use a gentle shampoo without sulfates, which are the harsh detergents that strip everything away. Focus on massaging your scalp with your fingertips, not your nails, to lift away oil and dead skin. Rinse thoroughly, because leftover shampoo creates its own build-up problem. And once a week, consider using a clarifying shampoo or a scalp exfoliating treatment to really deep clean and remove anything regular shampoo missed. After washing, condition only the lengths and ends of your hair, not your scalp, so you're not adding heavy products right back onto the clean scalp. This is one of those changes where women see results relatively quickly. Within 2 to 3 weeks, your scalp feels different. Within a couple months, you might notice less shedding because you've created a healthier environment for your follicles to do their job. And now we're here. Number 1, the biggest, most devastating mistake that women over 60 make that accelerates hair loss more than almost anything else. And this is it. This is the big one. You're living in a state of chronic stress, and your cortisol levels are quietly destroying your hair from the inside out. I know that sounds dramatic, but stay with me because this is the foundation everything else builds on. Chronic stress is the invisible accelerator that makes every other hair loss factor 10 times worse. Here's what happens in your body when you're stressed. Your adrenal glands pump out cortisol, the stress hormone. In short bursts, cortisol is fine. It's actually helpful. It gets you through emergencies. But when you're stressed day after day, week after week, month after month, cortisol stays elevated, and that wreaks absolute havoc on your hair growth cycle. Cortisol shifts your hair follicles from the growing phase into the resting phase prematurely. So instead of growing for 3 or 4 years before shedding, your hairs might only grow for a year or 18 months before they stop and fall out. Cortisol also redirects resources away from non-essential functions like hair growth towards survival functions. Your body thinks you're in danger, so it prioritizes keeping you alive over keeping your hair thick. Cortisol triggers inflammation throughout your entire body, including your scalp. And we've already talked about how inflammation damages follicles, and high cortisol can actually block other hormones that support hair growth, making the hormonal shifts of menopause even worse. But here's what makes this absolutely devastating for women over 60 specifically. By the time you're in your 60s, you've often been through decades of stress, raising kids, building a career, maybe going through divorce, caring for aging parents, dealing with health issues, financial worries, grief and loss. That stress accumulates. Your body's stress response system gets worn down. Some women are dealing with what's called adrenal fatigue, where your cortisol levels might actually be too low because you've burned out your adrenal glands from years of overwork. And now in your 60s, even normal daily stress hits your body harder because you don't have the resilience you used to have. And let's be honest, a lot of women over 60 are stressed about feeling invisible, about aging, about losing their identity, about not being valued the way they once were. You look in the mirror and you don't recognize yourself. Your hair is thinning, and that makes you feel older, less attractive, less vital, which creates more stress, which makes your hair fall out more, which creates more stress. It's a vicious cycle. I've talked to women who realized they'd been living in fight or flight mode for years. They barely slept. They worried constantly. They carried tension in their shoulders and jaw all day long. They thought that was just life now, But when they finally addressed the stress through therapy, through meditation, through yoga, through actually dealing with the emotional weight they'd been carrying, their hair started coming back. One woman said she'd tried every supplement and treatment for her hair loss, but nothing worked until she started seeing a therapist to process grief she'd been avoiding for years. Within 4 months of actually dealing with her stress, her hair loss slowed dramatically. She said it was like her body finally felt safe enough to grow hair again. Here's the fix, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this, it's hard. Stress management isn't a quick pill you take. It's a fundamental shift in how you live, but it's also the most powerful thing you can do for your hair and your overall health. You need to find ways to genuinely lower your cortisol levels every single day. Meditation works. Even 10 minutes a day of quiet breathing has been shown to lower cortisol. Deep breathing exercises, the kind where you breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, actually reset your nervous system. Yoga, gentle movement, walks in nature, anything that gets you out of your head and into your body. Connection with other people, real conversation, laughter, community, these things lower cortisol more than we realize. You also need to look at your sleep. If you're not getting 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep, your cortisol regulation is completely off. Work on sleep hygiene. Dark room, cool temperature, no screens before bed, maybe magnesium supplements to help you relax. And here's the one that's hardest but most important. You might need to actually deal with the things that are stressing you out. If it's a relationship that's toxic, if it's a situation you keep avoiding, if it's grief you haven't processed, if it's anger you're holding on to, those things are keeping your cortisol high. Therapy can help. Journaling can help. Talking to trusted friends can help. Sometimes you need to make big changes in your life to reduce your stress load. And that's scary, but your health depends on it. Your hair is literally showing you that your body is overwhelmed, and here's something else that ties this all together. Chronic stress makes all those other mistakes worse. When you're stressed, you're more likely to skip meals and not get enough protein. Stress depletes your iron and other nutrients faster. You're more likely to reach for heat styling to try to feel better about how you look. You might neglect your hair care routine because you're just too exhausted. Stress is the multiplier that amplifies every other problem. So while I've given you 5 mistakes to fix, if you only fix one, fix this one. Get your stress under control, because when your cortisol levels normalize, your body shifts from survival mode into thriving mode. Your hair follicles get the signal that it's safe to grow again. Inflammation decreases. Hormone balance improves. And all those other interventions, the protein, the iron, the gentle styling, the scalp care, they work so much better when your body isn't fighting against constant stress. Now let's talk about how to actually implement all of this, because I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. You don't have to fix everything at once. Start with the easiest changes first. This week, track your protein intake. Make sure you're getting close to that 75 to 90 gram target. Schedule an appointment with your doctor and specifically ask them to test your ferritin levels. While you're waiting for that appointment, start reducing heat styling. Let your hair air dry a few days this week instead of blow drying every day. Wash your hair 1 extra time this week and really focus on massaging your scalp. And pick one stress management technique to try. Download a meditation app. Sign up for a yoga class. Call a friend you've been meaning to reconnect with. Take a walk outside without your phone. Then next week, add one more change. The week after, another one. Build these habits slowly so they stick. And remember, hair growth is slow. You're looking at 3 to 6 months minimum before you see real visible changes. That's normal. That's how the hair growth cycle works. But if you stick with these changes, if you give your body the support it needs, you will see improvement. Your hair won't be exactly what it was when you were 30, and that's okay. But it can be healthier, fuller, stronger than it is right now. And more importantly, you'll feel better. You'll feel like you're taking control instead of just watching things get worse. You deserve to feel confident at every age. Your hair doesn't define your worth, but I know how much it matters to how you see yourself. Don't let anyone tell you that hair loss is just something you have to accept. It's not. There are real, actionable things you can do right now to change the trajectory. Start today. Be patient with yourself. Be consistent. And know that you're not alone. Thousands of women are going through this exact same struggle, and thousands have turned it around by making these exact changes. If you found this valuable, please hit that like button so other women can find this information. Drop a comment with your age and where you're from so we can build this community of women supporting each other. Share this video with any women in your life who might be struggling with hair loss, and subscribe to this channel for more content about health and wellness after 60, because your best years are absolutely not behind you. You're still here, you're still growing, you're still becoming, and that includes your hair. Take care of yourself. You're worth it.